Welcome. I hope you know how happy I am that you are here. At this time of the year, I find myself intensely aware of the season, the changes in temperature, the precipitation. We had some dramatic storms in the last week or so, the hours of daylight, which you know is a favorite topic of mine, which are diminishing at this time of year, as well as the signs of fall. As students return to school, work seems to intensify, and our routines are taken up again. Except that there are many whose routines have been upended by the pandemic, the effects of which continue to reverberate, sometimes in ways we are not even aware of. Even for those whose places of work have not changed, whose children are going back to a familiar school, who've embraced a return to normal, the world has changed. It is not normal. And I believe we are looking at our lives, our communities, our countries, the dynamics of our world differently than we did before. While I would not presume or pretend to know all of the ways in which our attitudes, our views, our circumstances have been affected by the pandemic and its attendant requirements, I do sense, anecdotally at least, that many are feeling a greater fragility than before. It's not that we didn't know that our lives could turn on a dime overnight, but we have now lived that reality collectively. The world stopped overnight, and we experienced that trauma together, compounded by the fear that if we left our homes, even to do essential errands like grocery shopping, we could die. Fragility, anxiety, hesitancy dominated our emotional vocabulary for 2 years and are still very close to the surface of our daily experiences. This situation certainly helped to make meditation a desired practice, particularly as it asks us to live in the here and now, the only reality upon which we can depend. We've also found that meditation helps us to cultivate an attitude of gratitude, if you will. It is almost impossible to meditate without feeling grateful for each breath, for the ability to sit quietly for a few moments, for the opportunity to renew, to restore, to reboot our weary spirits. There are those who consider their daily meditation a gratitude practice. So let us pause now to take our first break to breathe in a meditation, or at least an attitude of gratitude. So let us take our meditative positions and find a comfortable sitting position in which we still are sitting upright, but comfortably stable in a stable way, with our feet planted firmly on the ground, our bottoms firmly on a chair. We are attentive, but not tense. And as you know, I always like to do an inventory of where our tensions might be, where our anxieties might be, where the negative feelings might be lodging, and see if we could release them physically at first. It might be very helpful to gently close your eyes or soften your gaze and start, well, you could start from your toes, I suppose, but somehow it feels more natural to start at the top and let things go out through a descent as we release our scalps, the creases in our foreheads. We might even take our fingers and gently rub away those creases. We imagine our ears relaxing, our jaws going slack, our tongues just resting at the bottom of our mouths. And we proceed from there to our necks, finding the best way to release all of those muscles that we use to hold our necks upright, of course, but use also to hold some of our tensions. And we move into our chest cavity, and we'll be taking a deep breath shortly, but we might think about our shoulders and letting them go. And simultaneously or successively thinking about our upper arms, our elbows, our forearms, our hands, resting comfortably in our laps, allowing our fingers maybe to go back and forth a little bit, and then just to rest in an open way in our laps, not clenched. Sometimes I think we just clench our hands as we clench so many parts of our bodies. And we release our waists and our hips and our thighs, and shake our knees back and forth, our calves, maybe twirl our ankles for a moment, and dig our feet into an imaginary shore, imaginary sand, wiggle our toes in that warmth and comfort. And then let us take a breath. And we might notice as we do any worries, fear, anger, irritation, judgment. And let's breathe them out. And let us take the next breath. And breathe in any thoughts of memories, plans, associations. Just breathing in these positive thoughts of milestone, perhaps, a kind comment someone shared with you, a good feeling you had. We breathe that in, filling the places inside, filling the places made empty by the release of negative emotions and negative tensions. And then we breathe those out again as well. And we try it again. And we release physical tension, negative thoughts, even positive thoughts, just for right now. And in this way, we make our bodies and our emotions and our thoughts a little lighter, a little cleaner, a little clearer. And this time, as we breathe in, we might be aware of the gifts that are just automatic at this moment. The gift of life itself, the most precious gift of all. The gift of hearing, as you are listening to this meditation. The gift of our heart beating. And corollary to that, our breath going in and out. Between the heart and the breath, Those are the instruments of life and of keeping us alive. And then we might just think about very simple things that make our lives possible and in many ways ease them. Electricity that gives us light, water that flows clean in our houses, the possibility to heat or cool the places in which we live and work. We have homes, we have roofs over our heads. We have cars to take us where we need to go, or public transportation. We can wash our clothes. We can keep our food fresh and cold in our refrigerator. We have libraries and schools and congregations. And let us just breathe in all of that goodness and positivity. I know I spoke just a couple of weeks ago about how grumpy it made me when the electricity went out because of a storm, and how grateful I am that most of the time we can rely on those things. So let us breathe in again. A sense of gratitude for everything that exists in our lives at this moment. And for which we had to do very little to make sure it is here. And if we simply stay with the breath, we can say thank you for every breath we take. We can say thank you for the chairs or the couches on which we are sitting. We can say thank you for the electricity that allows this computer to work. And the computer itself that we possess. We can say thank you for the clothes that we are wearing on our bodies, for the food we had today, or will have in a moment, a few moments. Saying thank you for the little things make all the difference. Make our awareness a gratitude awareness. This week, I came across two readings that each in their own way deal powerfully with the idea and the effects of gratitude. The first, not surprisingly, by one of my favorite scholars, the late Rabbi Jonathan Sacks, is a commentary on this week's Torah portion, Akev, entitled The Power of Gratitude. He begins by citing a long-term study that examined the attitudes of 700 nuns early on in their careers, and then 60 years later. Sacks writes, the results, published in 2001, were startling. The more positive emotions, such as contentment, gratitude, happiness, love, and hope, the nuns expressed in their biographical assessment at the outset, the more likely they were to be alive and well 60 years later. The more positive emotions they expressed at the outset, the more likely they were to be alive and well 60 years later. The difference was as much as 7 years in life expectancy. So remarkable was this finding that it has led since then to a new field of gratitude research, as well as a deepening understanding of the impact of emotions on physical health. Sachs connects that study with the Torah portion in the following way. What medicine now knows about individuals, Moses knew hundreds of years ago about nations. Gratitude, in Hebrew, hakarat hatov, literally recognition of the good, is at the heart of what he has to say about the Israelites and their future in the promised land. As he points out, and as you may remember, the Israelites are anything but grateful for much of their time in the wilderness. They complain about the lack of food and water, and then they complain about the manna that God provides for them. They complain about the lack of meat and vegetables, the dangers they faced from the Egyptians as they were leaving Egypt, and then the danger of facing the inhabitants of the land they are about to enter. They lacked gratitude during the difficult times. Even more serious and dangerous, according to Rabbi Sachs, would be a lack of gratitude during the good times. This is what Moses warned. When you have eaten and been satisfied, and have built fine houses and lived in them, when your herds and flocks have grown abundant, and your silver and gold is multiplied, and all that you have has multiplied, your heart may become proud, forgetting the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. You might be tempted to say to yourself, my power, the strength of my own hand, have brought me this great wealth. But remember the Lord your God, for it is God who gives you the power to do great things, upholding the covenant that Adonai swore to your ancestors. Since the publication of the Nun study and a great deal of further research it inspired, we are now aware of the multiple positive effects of developing an attitude of gratitude. It improves physical health and immunity against disease. Grateful people are more likely to engage in regular exercise and go for regular medical checkups. Thankfulness reduces toxic emotions such as frustration, resentment, and regret, and makes depression less likely. It helps people avoid overreacting to negative experiences by seeking revenge. It even tends to make people sleep better. It enhances self-respect, making it less likely to envy others for their achievements or success. Grateful people tend to have better relationships. Saying thank you enhances friendships and elicits better performance from employees. It is also a major factor in strengthening resilience. One study of Vietnam War veterans found that those with higher levels of gratitude suffered lower incidences of post-traumatic stress disorder. Remembering the many things we have to be thankful for helps us survive painful experiences, from losing a job to bereavement. As Rabbi Sachs points out, further, Jewish prayer is an ongoing seminar in gratitude. Birchot HaShachar, the dawn or morning blessings, which are said at the start of morning prayers each day, form a kind of inventory of thanksgiving for life itself, for the human body, the physical world, land to stand on, eyes to see with. The first words we are to say each morning, Modeh ani, I thank you, mean that we begin each day by giving thanks. Part of the essence of gratitude is that it recognizes that we are not the only determiners of what is good in our lives. Thankfulness has an inner connection with humility. It recognizes that what we are and what we have is due to others, and above all, to God. That we don't have to be religious to be grateful. There is something about belief in God as creator of the universe, shaper of history, and author of the laws of life that directs and facilitates our gratitude. It is hard to feel grateful to a universe that came into existence for no reason and is blind to us and our fate. It is precisely our faith in a personal God that gives force and focus to our thanks. It is no coincidence that the United States, founded by Puritans, Calvinists steeped in the Hebrew Bible, should have a day known as Thanksgiving, recognizing the presence of God in American history. On the 3rd of October, 1863, at the height of the Civil War, Abraham Lincoln issued a Thanksgiving proclamation, thanking God that though the nation was at war with itself, there were still blessings for which both sides could express gratitude: a fruitful harvest, no foreign invasion, and so on. He continued, "No human counsel hath devised, nor hath any mortal hand worked out these great things. They are the gracious gifts of the Most High God, who, while dealing with us in anger for our sins, hath nevertheless remembered mercy. I do therefore invite my fellow citizens in every part of the United States to set apart and observe the last Thursday of November next as a day of thanksgiving and praise to our beneficent Father who dwelleth in the heavens. And I recommend to them that while offering up the ascriptions justly due to him for such singular deliverances and blessings, they do also, with humble penitence for our national perverseness and disobedience, fervently implore the interposition of the Almighty hand to heal the wounds of the nation and to restore it as soon as may be consistent with the divine purposes to the full enjoyment of peace, harmony, tranquility, and union." Rabbi Sachs concludes, "Thanksgiving is as important to societies as it is to individuals. It protects us from resentments and the arrogance of power. It reminds us of how dependent we are on others and on a force greater than ourselves. As with individuals, so with nations, Thanksgiving is essential to happiness and health." So let us pause again to breathe in the possibilities that such a declaration might provide for us today as a renewal and reminder in this country, in other countries, in any country on this earth, and how much it would mean to each of our lives to begin each day with a similar declaration. Modeh ani, I am grateful. Let us breathe in that sentiment fully, deeply, completely. Not really possible, but let us imagine. I am grateful. And breathe out any contradiction to that feeling. I hope you will continue to breathe in and out. But by way of conclusion, and especially inspiration, I'd like to offer to you the following reading. that was shared with me by one of our regular participants in this break to breathe. It is entitled The Miracle, Living in Our Moments, and was related by a woman known as Dr. Lori. It is longer than our usual closing reading, but I am hoping you will find it worthwhile. The miracle, living in our moments. Her words were soft and slow in coming as she struggled to breathe. Her body was weak and frail, and the effort seemed to take hours. But when the words finally came, they hit me with a force. She said, "For months, I have prayed for a miracle. I prayed that I would wake up and this cancer would be gone, that I would jump from this bed and step back into my life, a life filled with busy and full days of rushing to my daughter's softball games, yelling at my boys to clean their rooms, and balancing phone calls from the office while trying to grocery shop. All the things that at the moment would have seemed stressful and annoying, but in my memory today meant a normal and healthy life. Such a contrast to the tubes, the pain, and the energy that fades from me each day. Today, as I accept the ending of my journey, I no longer pray for the miracle that I wanted. I accept the miracle that has been granted to me. I reached out and held her cool, frail hand as she took another breath and continued. I have had the blessing of a life filled with people who love me. I have been given the gift of parenthood and the privilege of knowing unconditional love. I leave this world now fully knowing and understanding that I was here for a reason. I had a purpose. Realizing this before I am gone has been my miracle. As she closed her eyes, I sat for a while thinking about her words. At first, it seemed odd to me that she used the word miracle as she did. When I think of the word miracle, I focus on the traditional meanings and connotations. That is a miracle as a powerful outcome that defies logic and the powers of nature or humankind, as if guided by spiritual power. An event that is statistically unlikely and for which there is no logical or human explanation. As I left the hospital, I took a deep breath of the cold air that hit my face, and I thought about the many faces of those that I have sat at the bedside through their dying process. Some struggled with the fear of dying and held on to anger and resentment that this had happened to them. Some clung to the hope of a miracle, a cure, and asked for every medical intervention to facilitate the cure, while others resigned themselves and accepted the end of their life, some in defeat and some in peace. This 42-year-old woman, who was only days away from taking her last breath, was gifted with the awareness of her value and her worth. Her miracle was the realization that life, her life, had purpose and meaning. A reality that she did not recognize when she was running through her hectic days, but became clear to her as she lay in her hospital bed. Her miracle was a mindful focus on the moments and events that mattered, a powerful reminder that despite our best efforts to control and manage our life's path, much of it is not in our control. What we do control is the moments that exist in the present. These are the moments that sustain us and often the ones that are reviewed at the bedside. My hope for all of us is that we mindfully and consciously live in our moments. Perhaps we need to pay attention to how much energy we expend on anger and frustration at the traffic, the annoying boss, and our financial struggles. How many times do we hear ourselves saying, I wish it was Friday. I wish it was summer. I wish it was retirement, and so on. But what if our greatest and most cherished bedside moments will happen on a Monday morning or in the winter or during our work life? What if our purpose and the difference we will make occurs during those moments? Just maybe we miss opportunities to see and hear people right in front of us as we bury ourselves in our electronic devices and put our energy into future activities and plans with only a casual recognition and glance at the present. What a blessing to have our moments and the recognition of them as a miracle. My hope for all of us for this coming week and beyond is that we mindfully and consciously live in our moments. God bless you. Thank you. See you next time.